She bought an old estate online for $500. She didn't know it came with a husband, an alpha king. Myra never thought she would buy an old estate online. In truth, she had not expected much from life lately. Work had become a cycle of exhaustion and monotony, and the city pressed against her with its gray skies and endless noise. When she saw the listing, it almost felt like a joke. Old estate, $500, must see. No one in their right mind would consider it, she thought. But something in the back of her mind stirred. A chance for escape, for freedom, for a new story she could call her own. So she clicked buy, her fingers trembling not with fear but with a sense of destiny she could not yet name. The estate was located miles from any town, deep in the forested hills. The road there narrowed to a single path, winding through mist-laden woods where sunlight barely touched the earth. When she arrived, the gate creaked open as if recognizing her presence. The house itself rose like a shadowed monument, its dark stones weathered but strangely proud, windows like watchful eyes. She parked her car and stepped out. A chill brushed her skin, but she welcomed it. It felt alive here, as though the air carried secrets. Every step across the gravel felt heavier than it should. She paused at the front door, the iron knocker shaped like a lion's head. Her hand trembled as she lifted it and let it fall. The sound echoed across the empty land, and the echo seemed wrong. The door swung open by itself. Myra blinked. "Hello," she called softly, half expecting the caretaker or perhaps a neighbor. No one answered, only silence and the faint whisper of wind through the trees. The inside of the estate smelled of old wood and earth, dust, and something faintly sweet, like lavender preserved for centuries. The floorboards groaned under her weight as she explored. There were high ceilings, tapestries faded with time, and portraits lining the walls, stern men and women in clothes of a bygone age. One in particular caught her attention. A man with piercing gray eyes and dark hair stared at her from a gilded frame. Beneath it an inscription read, "The Alpha King." Myra's lips parted. She had assumed the portrait was ornamental, just a decoration in a house that time forgot. But the eyes, they seemed to follow her, almost alive. She felt a sudden rush of cold and stepped back. And that was when she heard it, a low, controlled voice coming from the hallway behind her. "You've come." Myra spun around. The hallway was empty. Her heart thudded against her ribs. "Who's there?" she asked, though her voice shook. From the shadows emerged a man, tall, broad-shouldered, his presence commanding and undeniable. He moved with a silent grace, each step echoing slightly against the stone floor. His gray eyes were sharper than any blade Myra had ever seen. "I am the Alpha King," he said, voice low, almost a growl, though there was no anger in it. "And this estate, it belongs to me." Myra blinked. I bought it, online, $500, that's the listing." He smiled, a thin, faint twist of lips, and Myra felt something stir deep in her chest, both fear and something she could not name. "The estate chooses its owners," he said simply, "and it seems you have chosen to accept more than the land." Myra frowned. "More." He stepped closer, and she instinctively felt the room shrink around them. "Yes," he said, "the contract is binding. You are now my wife." Myra laughed nervously, thinking this must be a trick, some elaborate prank. "You're joking." The Alpha King did not smile this time. He reached out and his hand hovered near hers, almost touching. Myra flinched. "I am never joking," he said. Her mind raced. Was he insane, or was she? The house seemed to pulse around her, walls trembling slightly, shadows lengthening as though alive. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, carrying voices she could not understand. She felt suddenly very small, very human, standing in a place that seemed older than time itself. "I don't even know your name," she said, trying to assert some control. "I have many names," he replied, "but here you may call me whatever you wish. It changes nothing. You belong to the estate and now to me." She shook her head, backing away. "This is insane. I don't belong to anyone." He tilted his head as if amused. Do you think you had a choice? Myra swallowed. The words felt like chains around her heart. Then why me? Because the estate has waited for you, he said, and his eyes softened ever so slightly, just enough to make her doubt her own fears. And because you will see what others cannot, you will awaken it and yourself. Her fingers brushed against the wall as she steadied herself. She did not understand his meaning, but a strange pulse thrummed through the floorboards beneath her, like the heartbeat of the house itself. The estate was alive and it recognized her. Over the next hours, Myra explored cautiously. She found rooms she could not remember seeing on the floor plan, staircases that led nowhere, and doors that seemed to appear and disappear depending on the angle she viewed them. Every corner carried whispers, faint, unintelligible, yet always beckoning. By evening she had retreated to the library, a massive room filled with dusty tomes and scrolls. The Alpha King appeared silently, standing in the doorway. "You fear the estate," he said, voice soft now, almost gentle. "But it fears nothing. It will teach you. It will guide you." "I don't want guidance," Myra said, shaking her head. I wanted a quiet place to live." He stepped into the room, closer now, and for a moment the tension shifted. He was less an intruder and more a part of this house, as if he had always belonged. "Quiet," he repeated, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "You will find no quiet here, Myra, not until you understand the power you have awakened." She shivered, a mix of fear and fascination pulling her in opposite directions. There was a strange longing in his gaze, something that went beyond words. And yet, the shadows around them seemed to stretch, leaning toward her as if they had stories to tell, secrets that demanded attention. Night fell quickly, more absolute than any city night she had known. She lit a few candles, but the darkness seemed to absorb their light, creeping along walls, pooling in corners. She felt watched, though she could not see anyone. Then came the whispering, soft at first like wind through dry leaves, then clearer, her name called over and over. Myra froze, realizing it was coming from inside the house, from the estate itself. The Alpha King stood behind her silently. His presence was grounding yet also terrifying. "Do you hear it?" he asked. "Yes," she whispered. What is it?" "It is the estate," he said. "It calls to you, it recognizes you as its own, and now it calls you to accept me as well." She turned to face him, her pulse hammering. I don't know if I can." He tilted his head, gaze unwavering. "You will try, and in trying you will find who you truly are. The estate is not cruel, but it is patient, and it does not forgive those who ignore its calling." Myra backed away slowly, but her feet felt heavy. Her eyes darted to the portrait on the wall, the Alpha King's eyes staring down at her as if confirming every word. Her heart raced with a fear she did not fully understand, and a strange exhilaration she could not name. Suddenly, the candles flickered violently. The shadows in the corners twisted, stretching toward her like tendrils of smoke. Myra gasped. And then she heard the softest, most intimate sound, the whisper of a hand brushing hers, even though no one had moved. The Alpha King's voice cut through the rising panic. "The estate has chosen you, Myra. It has always waited. Now you must choose." Her breath caught in her throat. She wanted to flee. She wanted to scream. And yet a part of her, a deep, unexplainable part, wanted to stay, to step fully into the mystery of the estate and into the shadow of the man who claimed it. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling windows and doors. The trees groaned under some unseen weight. Myra felt the estate's heartbeat in her own chest. She realized, with a chill she could not shake, that she had stepped into a story far larger than herself. And at that moment the Alpha King extended his hand, not threateningly, not commanding, simply, undeniably offering it. Myra stared at it. She did not know if taking it meant surrender or courage. But one truth was undeniable. Life as she knew it had ended the moment she crossed the estate's threshold. Her hand hovered over his. The air between them thrummed with a silent promise, the first pulse of a bond that could not be broken, not yet, not ever. And from the darkness behind the curtains, a faint whisper echoed, soft and chilling. "She is ours now." Myra shivered, caught between fear, wonder, and a strange, inevitable longing. Whatever this estate was, whatever this Alpha King was, she had awakened something ancient. Something that would not rest until it had her completely. She knew one thing for certain. Tomorrow, her life would be nothing like today. The first light of dawn filtered weakly through the tall, dusty windows of the estate. Myra awoke on the cold, carved wooden floor of the library, her head resting on a pillow she had grabbed in panic during the night. The house was quiet now, but she could still feel it pulsing around her, alive with secrets. She rose slowly, stretching, and her eyes drifted to the portrait of the Alpha King. The man in the frame had not moved, yet she felt certain he was watching, just as he had last night. And somewhere in the distance, she sensed him, not in the library, not in the shadows, yet present, like a force she could feel but not see. Breakfast was a quiet affair. The estate seemed to provide for her. Fresh bread and fruits appeared on the dining table as if by magic. Myra touched them lightly, half expecting them to vanish. They did not. She realized that perhaps the house had ways of showing hospitality or control. He appeared without sound, as he always did, in the doorway. His gray eyes swept the room, lingering on her. "You slept well," he said simply. Myra hesitated. I think so, but I feel watched." He smiled faintly. "You are. The estate observes its owners, and you are its owner now, though it seems you have not yet accepted all it offers." She frowned. "What does that mean?" "The estate is older than any living memory," he explained. "It has been bound by curses, by magic, and by loyalty to those it chooses. Many have lived here, none like you. It expects more than simple ownership. It expects understanding." Myra shivered. "Understanding what?" "The rules," he said, "and the truth." She shook her head. "I just wanted a quiet place to live. I didn't want," she hesitated, "this, not magic, not whatever this is." He moved closer, but not threateningly. "You did not choose this entirely, but neither did you escape it. The estate has chosen you, and by choosing you it has awakened me." She blinked. "Awakened you?" He nodded. "I have lain dormant for centuries, bound to this place. Until the one meant to claim the estate arrived, I could not act. Now you are here and we are bound." Myra swallowed hard. "Bound how?" The Alpha King's gaze softened just slightly, but it remained intense. "In body, in spirit, in fate. The estate chose you. It will not release you, and I will not let it." She felt a cold thrill run down her spine. The words were terrifying, yet they were accompanied by a strange comfort, as though she had found a strange kind of safety amidst the danger. For the next days, Myra explored the estate more deliberately. She found rooms that seemed to appear only when she searched for them. A small study with a fireplace that still burned faintly, a music room with a grand piano untouched for decades, a garden where winter flowers bloomed under her gaze. Each room seemed alive, responsive to her presence, as though the house itself recognized her arrival. And always the Alpha King followed, never far, never intrusive, but always there. His presence was impossible to ignore. Sometimes he would simply stand at the end of a hallway, watching her work, and she would feel his eyes tracing her movements. Other times, he would appear silently in a doorway, offering a word of advice or instruction, then vanish before she could reply. One evening, she discovered a hidden chamber behind a bookcase in the library. Dust and cobwebs clung to the edges of the door. When she opened it, a faint glow spilled into the library, revealing shelves of old books, jars filled with unknown substances, and scrolls bound in faded leather. The Alpha King was there, leaning against the doorway. "You found the heart of the estate," he said softly. "Few ever do." Myra stepped inside cautiously. "Heart," he nodded. "The estate is alive. It remembers every owner, every choice, every betrayal. These rooms hold its memories, its secrets, its power." She ran her fingers over the spines of the books. The titles were strange and foreign, written in languages she could not understand. Yet one book fell open at her touch as if the house itself had chosen it for her. The pages glowed faintly, revealing a single word over and over: bound. Myra's heart raced. Bound to what? To me, he said quietly, moving closer, and to the estate. You are part of something far greater than you understand, but understanding comes slowly, and only if you allow yourself to see. She shivered, not entirely from cold. And if I refuse? He did not answer immediately. Instead, he walked past her, touching a candle that flickered weakly. Instantly, the room seemed brighter, the shadows retreating as if respecting his command. Refusal is unwise, he said finally. The estate will not be denied, and neither will I. The words sent a chill through her, but also a strange warmth. She did not know why. Perhaps it was the certainty in his voice, the confidence that came from centuries of existence. Perhaps it was the strange pull she felt toward him, one she could not explain. The following night, she awoke to find the house alive with whispers. Faint, unintelligible voices seemed to come from the walls themselves, calling her name, guiding her toward something hidden. She followed them, moving silently down the halls until she reached the music room. There, a grand piano sat in the center, its keys untouched for decades. The Alpha King was already there. He did not speak, but his presence filled the room. He gestured toward the piano. "Play," he commanded softly. Myra shook her head. "I don't know how." "You know more than you think," he replied. "The estate teaches. You must listen." She hesitated, then let her fingers brush the keys. A single note rang out, clear and pure, echoing through the high-ceilinged room. The estate seemed to respond, shadows swirled, the air shimmered, and the whispering voices grew louder, almost like a song. Myra's hands moved instinctively, guided by some unseen force. Each note unlocked something deep within her, memories not her own, feelings not her own, yet intimately familiar. The Alpha King watched silently, his expression unreadable, though his eyes held a faint glimmer of approval. When the final note faded, Myra slumped into a chair, exhausted and overwhelmed. What is happening to me?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You are awakening," he said simply. "The estate and I are bound, and now so are you." She looked up at him, confusion and fear mingling with an undeniable curiosity. "Bound to you?" "Yes," he said, "and not only to me but to what the estate has always intended, to power, to truth, to fate itself. This house does not give freely, Myra, it takes. But it also gives to those willing to accept it." The words settled heavily in her chest. She did not fully understand, yet she felt their truth deep within her. She had stepped into a story she could never escape, a life she could never leave. And strangely, part of her no longer wanted to leave. Over the next days, Myra began to notice subtle changes in herself. She could hear the faintest whispers from the walls, guiding her through hidden passages. She could sense when the estate needed tending, or when a window should be opened to let in air and light. She felt stronger, more aware, more alive, and always the Alpha King was near. Sometimes he would teach her how to read the arcane symbols hidden in the books, how to sense the flow of energy in the estate, how to respect its power without fear. Other times he would simply watch, silent and commanding, as if allowing her to discover her own strength. Despite her growing respect and fascination, Myra resisted the pull she felt toward him. His presence was magnetic, terrifying, and intoxicating. She felt both drawn to him and wary of surrendering to his influence. He was centuries older, infinitely powerful, and yet he was also human, with fears and regrets she could glimpse in fleeting moments. One evening, as they walked through the moonlit garden, the wind carrying the scent of winter roses, Myra finally spoke. "Why do you stay?" she asked. "Why do you remain bound here?" He paused, his gaze fixed on the horizon where the forest met the night sky. "I have no choice," he said quietly. "The estate holds me, the curse holds me, and yet I remain." Because when the one meant for me comes, I must be here ready. Myra looked at him, her heart quickening. And if I don't stay, he turned to face her, his expression unreadable. You cannot escape. Not the estate, not me, not the destiny that binds us. But you can choose how to meet it, with fear or with courage. The wind rustled the trees, carrying a faint whisper that sounded like her own name. Myra shivered, realizing that the estate itself seemed to urge her forward, to accept what was coming. And though fear tightened her chest, a spark of resolve began to grow. She would not flee, she would not hide, she would face the estate, she would face him. And she would discover the truth of what it meant to be bound to the estate, to the Alpha King, and to the destiny that had been waiting for her long before she had ever known. But as they returned to the house, Myra felt it, a shadow at the edge of the forest, watching, waiting. Not part of the estate, not part of the Alpha King, yet connected. Danger was coming, and it would not be denied. The estate whispered again, a low, almost mournful sound. Myra placed her hand on the cold stone wall and felt its pulse, steady, eternal, unyielding. She was part of it now, and the estate in turn was part of her. Tomorrow, she realized, the real trial would begin, and this time she would not face it alone. Cliffhanger. Its intent is unknown, but its presence promises danger, testing both the heroine and the Alpha King, and hinting that their bond and the estate is far more threatened than they realize. The estate had changed since Myra had arrived. The walls seemed to pulse with life, the floors hummed faintly beneath her steps, and the shadows shifted as though alive. Myra had grown accustomed to the whispers, the flickering lights, and the subtle guidance of the house. Yet tonight the estate felt different, tense, expectant, as if holding its breath. She walked through the grand hallway, her fingers brushing the carved banisters. Each step echoed against the high ceilings. Somewhere in the distance, she heard the Alpha King moving silently, his presence unmistakable even without sight. "You feel it too," she said softly. He emerged from the shadows, tall and commanding, his gray eyes sharp against the dim light. "Yes," he replied. "There is disturbance near the northern woods. Something or someone approaches the estate." Myra's heart skipped. "A threat," he nodded. "A powerful one. The estate has protected us for centuries, but even it cannot face every danger alone. You must be ready." She swallowed hard, but there was a spark of determination in her eyes. "I will be ready." He studied her for a long moment, then said quietly, "Do you know why you are here, Myra?" She shook her head. "I think to awaken the estate, and to awaken something in you." His lips curved in the faintest of smiles. "Perhaps. You are not wrong. The estate is not merely walls and stone. It is memory, power, and spirit. And so am I. I have been bound here for centuries, waiting for one who could match both my strength and my heart. You are that one." Myra felt her chest tighten. His words stirred a longing she had not understood until now. A pull toward him, magnetic and frightening. She took a step closer. "And if I fail?" "You will not," he said simply. "You have already begun to awaken. You are stronger than you know. But fear is the greatest enemy. You must overcome it, not for me, but for yourself." Before she could respond, a sudden, chilling gust of wind blew through the hallway, snuffing the candles. Shadows flickered violently, twisting into shapes that made her stomach churn. Outside, a figure moved silently at the edge of the forest, unseen by her, yet felt. The estate shivered as if warning them. "They are here," the Alpha King said, his voice low and commanding. "The one who seeks the estate approaches. We must face them together." Myra's pulse quickened, but she did not step back. Instead, she nodded. "I'm ready." He led her through hidden passages, staircases she had never noticed, and corridors where the walls seemed to hum with energy. They reached a balcony overlooking the northern woods. The moonlight revealed a dark figure moving with silent precision. Its intent was clear: intrusion, threat, power. "They are not human," Myra whispered. "Correct," he said. "But neither are we powerless. Stand by me." He extended his hand and she took it instinctively. In that moment, a strange warmth surged through her, a connection between them and the estate itself. The house seemed to respond, the air vibrating with unseen energy. The trees beyond the estate shivered, shadows twisting and stretching as if warning the intruder. The figure stepped into the moonlight, tall, cloaked, eyes glowing faintly with a sinister light. Myra felt fear spike in her chest, but the Alpha King's presence beside her steadied her. He whispered, "Trust the estate, trust yourself, trust me." She nodded. Together they descended from the balcony, moving silently toward the intruder. The ground beneath them hummed with latent energy. When they were close enough, the Alpha King raised his hand, and a faint glow spread from his fingertips, illuminating the night. The intruder froze as though sensing the ancient power radiating from the pair. "You do not belong here," the Alpha King said, his voice ringing like steel and velvet combined. "Leave now or face the estate's judgment." The intruder laughed softly, a sound that sent chills down Myra's spine. "The estate's power is nothing without its master," they said, "and the master is weak. He has waited centuries, but now he falters. He cannot control what you call destiny." Myra felt a strange surge of anger. "He is not weak," she shouted. The Alpha King's eyes met hers, and she saw something she had never seen before: pride, acknowledgement, and a faint hint of affection. The intruder's laughter ceased abruptly. The estate itself seemed to roar, shadows stretching outward, walls vibrating with energy. Myra felt it in her bones. This house was alive, protecting them, responding to her courage. She stepped forward, her hand brushing against the Alpha King's, and for a moment the pulse of the estate flowed through her. With a gesture from the Alpha King, the intruder was thrown back, unable to maintain their stance. The estate's power surged, binding them to the forest floor, shadows forming a cage around the intruder. "You see," the Alpha King said softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "The estate recognizes your courage. It recognizes you." Myra's breath caught. She felt a deep connection, not just to the estate but to him, the man who had haunted her dreams, who had walked silently beside her, who had stirred emotions she could not name. They returned to the estate, the intruder vanquished for now, though Myra knew this was not the end. The shadows at the edge of the forest lingered, watching, waiting. Inside, the Alpha King led her to the heart of the house, the hidden chamber behind the library bookcase. It glowed faintly in the moonlight, shelves filled with ancient books and artifacts humming with power. "You have done well tonight," he said, "but the true trial is not the intruder, it is the past." Myra frowned. "Your past?" He nodded, his gaze distant. "I was bound to this estate long before you arrived. Betrayal, loss, mistakes, they haunt me still. I have spent centuries in isolation, fearing attachment, fearing loss. I did not think I could feel again until you came." Her chest tightened. "Me?" "Yes," he said softly. "You awakened something in me, something I thought was gone forever. Courage, hope, love, but fear still lingers, pride, doubt. I must learn to trust again. And you must learn to accept." Myra stepped closer. "Trust me." He looked at her, eyes searching, intense. "Yes. Trust yourself, trust me, trust the estate. Only then can we face what is coming." For a moment silence filled the chamber. Then slowly he reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Myra felt her heart race. She did not pull back. Neither did he. The bond between them was no longer just of fate. It was of choice, of recognition, of mutual respect and growing longing. Suddenly the candles flickered, and a whisper echoed through the chamber, soft, chilling, familiar. "She is ours now." Myra's eyes widened. "Not again," she whispered. The Alpha King's expression hardened. "The curse is older than we know. There are forces in this world that would claim the estate and by extension you and me. We must be vigilant." Myra nodded. "Then we face it together." He smiled faintly, a rare warmth in his eyes. "Yes, together." The next morning, Myra awoke with a sense of purpose. She moved through the estate with newfound confidence, discovering hidden corridors, reading arcane symbols, and sensing the pulse of the house as if it were part of her own body. She realized she had changed. The fear that had gripped her in the beginning had not disappeared, but it had transformed into determination. She was no longer simply a visitor. She was a part of the estate, bound to it, and bound to the Alpha King. He watched her silently from the shadows, acknowledging her strength without words. And in that silent acknowledgement, Myra felt a surge of pride in something far deeper, the stirrings of love, trust, and connection that neither time nor curse could deny. But the shadow in the forest had not gone. Myra sensed it lurking, patient and powerful, a threat that would return. And when it did, they would need more than courage. They would need the full strength of their bond, the power of the estate, and the trust they were learning to place in each other. For now they stood together in the moonlight, hands brushing, hearts beating in quiet sync. The estate hummed around them, alive and aware. And though danger waited, Myra felt ready. For the first time she understood the truth of the Alpha King's words. We are bound, but together we are stronger than any force that would challenge us. And in that moment the past began to fade. The estate's whispers grew calmer. The shadows softened. The bond between them, fragile yet undeniable, began to take root, promising that even amidst darkness and threat, they would face whatever came side by side. But in the distance, unseen and patient, the shadow waited, promising that the trials of courage, trust, and love had only just begun. Cliffhanger. Its motives are unknown, yet its presence hints that even their growing bond and the estate's power may soon be tested in ways neither of them could imagine. The estate stirred in the early morning light, its stones glowing faintly under the sun's touch. Myra walked through the halls with a quiet confidence, her fingers brushing the carved walls as though greeting an old friend. The air carried a sense of anticipation, heavy with the promise of change. The Alpha King moved beside her silently. His presence was no longer intimidating, though it retained its power. There was a softness to his gaze now, an acknowledgement of the bond they had forged together over weeks of trials, whispers, and the awakening of the estate's magic. You feel it too, Myra said, breaking the silence. He nodded. The estate senses the shift. It knows we are ready. Ready for what? She asked, though she already feared the answer. He glanced at her, expression unreadable. For the final challenge. The curse that has bound me and the estate for centuries is not yet broken. The forces that would claim us will come, and we must stand united. Myra's chest tightened, but she did not falter. She had faced shadows, intruders, and the whispers of the estate. She had learned its secrets and tapped into her own strength. She was no longer the frightened woman who had first arrived. She was part of something greater, a bond between her, the Alpha King, and the estate itself. As if on cue, the sky darkened. A chill swept through the halls, rustling tapestries and rattling windows. The northern forest shimmered with unnatural light. From the shadows beyond the estate's walls, the dark figure from the previous nights emerged, now fully visible, cloaked in black, eyes glowing with ancient power. Myra gripped the Alpha King's hand. "It's back," she whispered. He tightened his hold around hers. "Yes. And this time it will not leave without a fight." Together, they moved to the main hall, the heart of the estate. The floor vibrated beneath them, responding to the approaching threat. The intruder raised their hands, and shadows surged forward like living tendrils. Myra felt the estate respond instinctively, walls pulsing, candles igniting, energy crackling in every corner. "You must focus," the Alpha King said. "The estate's power flows through us. Trust it, trust me." Myra closed her eyes, drawing in a deep breath. She felt the heartbeat of the estate beneath her palms, its magic thrumming through her veins. Shadows rushed toward them, but she did not step back. She was no longer just a visitor. She was its protector, its master alongside the Alpha King. He moved beside her, gestures precise and commanding. Light radiated from his hands, meeting the encroaching darkness. Myra mirrored him instinctively, feeling the estate's energy respond to her courage. Together, they created a shield of shimmering light that pushed the shadows back. The intruder's laughter cut through the air, sharp and cruel. "Do you think this will save you? You are bound to fate, but fate is cruel." Myra stepped forward, her voice strong and unwavering. "Fate is what we make of it. Not yours, not his, ours." The Alpha King's eyes met hers, and in that glance she saw centuries of sorrow, regret, and longing fade, replaced by trust, love, and determination. The shadows faltered, as if sensing the unbreakable bond between them. "You are stronger than you know," he whispered, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Stronger than I imagined." Myra felt a warmth surge through her chest, mingling with the power of the estate. She realized then that the bond between them was not just one of fate. It was choice, trust, courage, and love. The intruder lunged, darkness spiraling toward them, but together, Myra and the Alpha King pushed forward. Energy surged from their joined hands, light meeting shadow in a dazzling display that made the very walls of the estate tremble. The intruder screamed, the shadows dispersing into the night as if the estate itself rejected them. With one final surge, the darkness dissipated entirely, leaving the hall bathed in the soft glow of morning. The intruder had vanished, and for the first time in centuries, silence filled the estate, not empty, but alive, peaceful, and approving. Myra sank to her knees, exhausted, but a smile tugged at her lips. "We did it," she whispered. The Alpha King knelt beside her, brushing dust from her shoulders. "No," he corrected softly. "You did it. I merely guided you. The estate recognized your courage, your heart." She looked up at him, awe and gratitude in her eyes. "And you changed too. You let me in and you trusted me." His expression softened, the commanding presence giving way to vulnerability. "I had to," he said quietly. "For centuries I feared attachment, feared loss. I never imagined I could feel again. But you awakened something in me I thought was gone forever." Myra reached out, placing a hand over his. "Then we awaken it together," she said. The Alpha King studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Together." They rose, walking through the halls now bathed in warm, golden light. The estate seemed to hum around them, alive in content, walls glowing faintly with energy. Every corridor, every staircase, every hidden chamber acknowledged them, the rightful rulers of the house, bound not by fear, but by choice, courage, and love. In the heart of the library, the Alpha King took Myra's hands in his. "You have proven yourself worthy," he said, voice low and melodic. "The estate will never bind you unwillingly again. You are not just its owner, but its soul, and mine as well." Myra felt tears prick her eyes. I never imagined something like this could exist. Not in my life. Not in reality." He brushed a tear from her cheek. "And yet it does, because we believed, because we acted, because we trusted each other." For the first time, Myra felt the weight of centuries of history lift from the estate. She could hear its heartbeat in harmony with her own. She could feel the Alpha King's pulse beside hers, and in that unity she found peace. The estate had been a prison, a challenge, a mystery. Now it was a home, alive and breathing with them as its rulers. But even as the morning sun filled the halls, Myra sensed something lingering, not a threat, not danger, but possibility. The estate still held secrets, hidden chambers, and whispers of magic waiting to be discovered, and she would uncover them with the Alpha King by her side. He led her to the highest tower, the place where the first shadow had appeared. From there, the estate sprawled beneath them, forests, gardens, and stones stretching into the horizon. The morning mist clung to the woods, soft and serene, and for the first time Myra felt truly free. "Do you feel it?" the Alpha King asked, his voice gentle. "Yes," she said, taking in the estate, the sky, and the rising sun. "I feel everything, alive, powerful, connected." He nodded, and for a moment they simply stood there, hands entwined, hearts beating in quiet rhythm. The past, the shadows, the curses, all had been confronted, faced, and transformed. "You have changed me," he said finally, voice low and intimate. "Not just the estate, but me. I was broken long before you arrived. You made me whole again." Myra smiled softly. "And you made me see strength I didn't know I had. You taught me courage, trust, and love." The wind stirred around them, carrying a faint whisper, approving, serene, the voice of the estate itself. Myra shivered, not with fear but with awe. She had faced the unknown, and she had emerged stronger, united with the Alpha King, bound not by duty or curse but by choice. The estate pulsed gently beneath their feet, as if affirming the bond that had formed. The shadows that had haunted the halls were gone, dispersed by the courage, love, and unity that Myra and the Alpha King embodied. The estate was alive, and they were its heart. The Alpha King turned to her, expression tender yet powerful. "This is only the beginning," he said. "The estate, the world, our bond, there is more to discover, more to protect. But whatever comes, we face it together." Myra nodded, feeling the weight and wonder of those words. "Together," she echoed. As they stood on the tower, hand in hand, the horizon stretched endlessly before them. The morning sun painted the estate in gold and shadow, alive with magic and promise. Myra realized with a quiet joy that her life had changed forever. The estate had given her a home, the Alpha King had given her trust, and together they had forged something unbreakable, a bond that would endure beyond shadows, curses, and centuries. And though the world outside might hold new challenges, Myra knew one truth for certain: she would never face them alone. The Alpha King squeezed her hand, and she looked into his gray eyes, seeing not only centuries of wisdom but also hope, love, and the promise of eternity. The estate whispered around them, alive, approving content. The darkness had passed and light filled every stone, every shadow, every heartbeat. Myra smiled, leaning against the Alpha King. "Home," she whispered. "Yes," he replied, voice soft but strong. "Home, together." And for the first time in her life, Myra knew she had truly arrived, not merely at a place, but at a destiny, alive with magic, love, and the promise of forever. The estate stood eternal, its walls strong, its heart bound to theirs, and the world beyond stretched wide with possibility. Whatever came next, they would meet it as one, hearts, souls, and magic united. And in the silent embrace of stone and shadow, the Alpha King and Myra finally understood the true power of choice, courage, and love.